Hello, I'm Shota, and I'm half Italian, half Japanese. I was born in Rome and raised up there. I studied my whole life in Italian in a local school. So my mother tongue is Italian. Then I would say not really sure which is better, either my English or my Japanese. But Japanese is certainly the second language I learned. Then English. That's okay for the moment.
My name is Hide. I was born in Tokyo, but ever since I was 8 years old, I lived in Malaysia, in Penang. As for my language proficiency, up till I was 8 years old, I could speak. My Japanese was more fluent than my English, but ever since the course of 12 years prior to moving in Malaysia, my English has become better and better, whereas my Japanese has become worse and worse. So currently, my English is my best language, and I would say Japanese is my second, Mandarin being third.
I would say I personally don't like the word half too much. It seems like it's a handicap, you know. It seems like it's a deficit. I would prefer the word double. It gives more, because it's actually an advantage, in my opinion, to be half. It gives you the chance to know two different cultures, to know different point of views, and to take best parts of two different cultures. So if you know just one culture, if you have just one background, you know, just one lifestyle, you have no other things with which you can compare these things. You would find all these things normal. It's more difficult to improve yourself and also to change in a better way. While especially if you are, like in my case, half Italian, half Japanese, Italy and Japan are completely different historically, culturally, and even geographically extremely distant. So it's an advantage for me to know both Italy and Japan, how things work in these two countries, because I can compare. I think this is a key word, to be able to compare, so that I can take the best parts of my Italian part and my Japanese part. That's at least what I try to do. And I personally, so this is what I mean for being half. And I personally feel more Italian, I guess, currently, for very obvious reasons, I think. I mean, I was born and raised up there and studied for a whole lifetime in Italian, in local school in Italy. And that's my mother tongue, so I also think in Italian. But what I would like to do here, one of the reasons why I came here to study in Japan is also to explore more my Japanese part, so that I can eventually define myself double and not half anymore.
I guess as a half, it's really common for us to nitpick the best parts of the two nationalities. And the potential is, I feel personally, that it's definitely there for anyone that's half to, you know, be the best of both nationalities that you are. But when it comes to reality, people, especially from personal experience, I have, you know, personal preferences to whichever side I want to be it for the good or the worst. If anything, I feel that I consider more of myself as a Malaysian, just simply because of the fact that I spent a lot of my time growing up in Penang. I spent half of my childhood and the rest of my teenage years in Malaysia, whereas I've only spent my childhood in Japan. So it's almost little to no memory while I was before I was 8 years old. But I can definitely say, like, same as Shota, I came to Japan to experience and explore my Japanese side better after spending such a long time overseas. But you know, ever since I moved here a year ago, I can definitely say I think I prefer my Malaysian side more. Well, maybe simply because of preference that I've experienced myself as almost as a non-Japanese and seen myself as non-Japanese in a sense. It's strange to polarize it, and you know, we don't really call ourselves one or the other. It's almost somewhere. It's almost always somewhere in between. Well, I mean, if you're gonna put a barrier somewhere, or like if I have to say which one I am more, it's well, have to say that I'm more Malaysian than I am Japanese. I guess it could also be the idea of how Malaysia is far more multicultural than Japan is. So, as a multicultural person, it feels more natural to belong in a multicultural community than Japan, which is more, I guess, majority of the people are just one race, one nationality.
Concept itself of nationality has been, how would you say that, a lot of meaning is being taken away from this word, in my opinion.
It's getting challenged.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing because it leads to identity crisis in people. And of course, identity it's important because it defines you. And so I don't really like when I hear people saying, but that's my opinion, that nationality is just a detail on, it's just a passport or a detail on a document. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's much more. It's more of a also spiritual thing, I would say, because we are all. The present is a product of the past. What it means to be Italian, what it means to be Malay, what it means to be
There's so many factors
Japanese,
that define
right?
it, like whether
it's,
you've lived in a country before, whether you've...
There are many things and that define it, that might be ethnicity, language, lifestyle, traditions, also religion. I'm not saying that in order to feel Italian, for example, you need to be Catholic. Not even, I am Italian. I really feel Italian, and I'm not even baptized. I mean, 96, even more % of the Italians are baptized, although not many Italians go to church anymore. And I'm not Catholic. I'm not Christian. I'm atheist. But not for this reason I feel less Italian. So it's also quite of a fluid concept, I guess.
It's hard to determine which matters and what doesn't, and that could be different for everyone.
In Italy, it's not like I've always been seen as a foreigner, because in Rome I speak all the time in dialect, and I mean I'm 100% Italian in the manners, in gestures, in the way I speak, in the way I think. Blah, 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 blah. So.
Slightly racist, but okay. Not
So-
racist if the person does it, I guess.
So there are many people that probably thought that probably the only hint for my connationals in Italy that they might be half or foreigner, or that I might have some foreign origins, are the eyes. The eyes. So the shape of my eyes. So it's not very common. Like when I was a kid, I think I noticed about half people, especially half Caucasian and half Asian people, is that we look Asian when we are kids. If you look at photos of myself when I was a kid, totally look like an Asian. While growing up, my aspect changed, so I could totally be an Italian, I guess, on the eyes of the others. But there are not so many people now that would ask me, where are you from?
What about in Japan?
So in Japan, so the thing I wanted to say is that when I was a kid in Italy, they would always ask me, where are you from? Many would think I was Chinese just because I looked Asian. And now there are many, I mean, I look Asian, and many many Westerners cannot distinguish between Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, just like the Asians cannot distinguish between Italians, French. I mean, it's totally normal.
You look the same to me.
Yeah, it's not racist. Yeah. Simply, you're not used to the shit. Anyway, yeah. In Japan, it's, I think, clear. I think many Japanese people told me that I look half Japanese, half something. Differently from Italy, where I would look like a total foreigner when I was a kid. Now, who knows? In Japan, before and also now, I totally look half. But there are also many that thought I was completely Westerner. That's what I recently found out, actually. Like maybe some years ago, I would be seen as a half, and I guess many Japanese people learned how to recognize these half people thanks to some actors that became famous in the showbiz that are who are half. While now that I met many Japanese people that couldn't say I was half Japanese, and so yeah, I'm totally perceived as either half or a foreigner at the first glance when they see me. Yeah, but I don't feel uncomfortable at all with it, and it's not like they treat me differently. I don't.
Right. The thing about being half Asian, some other half Asian and half Japanese, especially if it's Chinese, which happens to look quite similar to a Japanese person, and if you have a name like Masahide Hoshino, and you go over to and you talk to a Japanese person, they will just assume that you are completely Japanese, unless you specifically tell them that, for me, sometimes I have to explain that, my proficiency level and understanding of Japanese culture is not as, 100% as a Japanese person would be. And they look at me like, but you're Japanese? No. And I have to explain to them, I'm actually not Japanese, I'm actually part Malaysian. Then they go, yeah, I see. But then, it's sometimes very, I don't know, I still won't be fully assimilated into so-called Japanese society, as I've like previously experienced from living alone in Tokyo. It's a I'm not sure whether how I should react to this, but either way I'm treated ultimately as a foreigner in most cases. For example, when I was working, I would generally not be like part of the working colleagues. They would just be like one form of friends. Maybe it was just me being a newcomer, but I feel like, including the other foreigners that worked there, I feel like there was a seclusion between like the Japanese workers and the foreigners.
But you
and I was treated.
You need to include also one factor, which is language.
Oh no, I could speak and like generally.
No, I know you can speak, but there are many subliminal factors, right? When we since they are subliminal, we don't notice them, but they unconsciously affect us in the way we perceive the others. So Japanese people, since English it's difficult, it's completely different roots, right? From Japanese. Japanese is an oral type language. English for Europe is a Germanic root language, totally different. So English is difficult for the Japanese. So they feel the Japanese generally feel averagely speaking, they feel uncomfortable. You are all the time with the foreigners. You talk all the time in English, all these kind of things. So it's not that strange that you were perceived as a foreigner as well.
I guess.
But in my case, there are many times in which, for example, when a person went to Shogako, elementary school, like in 2006, like for 2 weeks in Japan, during summer, you can do this kind of experiences here in Japan, which is a good thing, I think. And it was totally alien element, right? Like an exotic animal. It came into town, and like the zoo came into town.
Like the seal in
the main attraction. But in the way you explain me all these experiences about you, I might speculate that you would have felt uncomfortable maybe in that situation, while I felt in a different way. Although I was quite clearly different from the others.
Well, I mean, that's...
they made me feel part
The thing
of
is that's how I was in Malaysia, because I was more or less seen as a Japanese person in Malaysia. So, whereas in Japan, I'm, I guess, far too seen as a Japanese person. Because I feel like the Japanese community in general has like a very specific idea of what a Japanese person should be like, and in terms of communication and how you use your keigo. It's very important that you are
of course,
follow these kind of
customs
as a Japanese person. And
it's interesting how at the very first glance, very first sight, I don't look 100% Japanese, do I?
No, of course,
right. So the Japanese people, when they look at me, they would think either he's a foreigner or he's half. So from the very beginning, they should behave like I am probably a foreigner, right?
Yeah.
And yet my Japanese is not proficient, but still I can have a conversation. I can talk with people and laugh, make jokes, and so on. But I don't feel too unless it's in a situation in which higher proficiency of Japanese is needed. In those cases, I feel uncomfortable with myself, not how the others treat me. I feel uncomfortable for the fact that I should improve my Japanese more.
Yeah. For me, I was very involved in like a service type work back in Tokyo, and that really affected like how like my idea of being a Japanese is.
Mm-hmm.
Because in service work in Japan, it's I mean quite a big deal that you follow these customs, especially if you're talking to customers and superiors.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me finish this point. From the very first sight, I'm clearly either not Japanese or anyway half.
Yeah.
Well, from the very first sight, for you, they look at you as a Japanese.
Yeah.
And you feel uncomfortable, while I don't, not too much, just in specific contexts.
Because I guess it's
well,
more...
I am speculating on why of this.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's because I feel more Japanese than you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a problem that comes more from the inside rather than from the outside, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't feel confident with yourself, so the others treat you just like you were 100% Japanese. They start using keigo, some keigo, blah 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 blah. Yeah. And then you find out on the spot that you cannot deal with that, and then you feel uncomfortable, right? It's totally normal. Well, for me, it's different. Even though I might struggle, to communicate with the Japanese, sometimes I don't have such a big issue from the identity point of view, so from the internal point of view. So I think it's because you lack that factor. You lack that irrational factor. In very simple words, I feel more Japanese than you.
Action.
So to conclude, I'd like to say clearly that identity, like the individual's identities in terms of nationality, the lack of this feeling, the feeling of belonging to a certain nation, a certain country, is an issue, and that is being way too much, is being underestimated way too much. So because of globalization, there's not just the lack of feeling to belong somewhere, but there are many that do not even feel the need to belong somewhere. So there are many that have a citizenship, they have a passport, American, French, Italian, whatever passport, but they don't have a nationality, which is more of a like spiritual, more of an inner thing. And I would like to underline that there's nothing chauvinist in these thoughts. There is a very wrong equation in the minds of people nowadays, in my opinion, which is if you love your country, you automatically hate the others. It's totally untrue. How can love be wrong and be equal to hate? It's the exact opposite of hate. So also from this viewpoint, I think we should specifically restore a word that is that has been polluted over the decades, which is patriotism. So what is patriotism? If you just look at whichever dictionary, it basically says that it is love for your country. So love for your nation, love for your country. While this term, it's a good term, and it shouldn't be confused with chauvinism, which is a word that comes from Chauvin, it's an allegory of a Napoleonic soldier that believed in the superiority of the French nation upon the others and wanted to hegemonically impose the French power upon the others. Of course, that's totally, so basically he hated the others. And that's a very, very degenerated form of love. I wouldn't even call it love. And I think we should make a distinguish between these two things and treat the problem of national identity in each individual as a society issue, because there are way too many individuals nowadays that don't feel they belong to a certain history, to a certain culture, to a certain country anymore. And of course this is not good for the society itself, because the credo of the people won't be the collective group, the whole group, but just themselves. And this just makes the ego of the people become bigger and bigger. So basically individualism. So individualism, it's way too widespread in my opinion, and this damages more of a collectivistic and altruistic feeling. And I think we need to recognize more the bonding that there is between the feelings I was talking about and the practical issues that this problem might cause.